Mic'd up.
Welcome everybody to Mic'd Up. I'm John Rager, your PJ Mic'd Up broadcaster, and today we're featuring a conversation with football greats. So let me go ahead and set the stage for you. My dad played in the NFL for 12 years. He was an all-pro linebacker with the Pittsburgh Steelers back in the 50s and 60s. And he played 12 years and he founded the Players Association. So when I grew up, I thought everybody's dad was a pro football player. So, had a lot of fun with it. But one of the most enjoyable things that I ever did with my dad involving football was at years after he retired from football, we have these NFL alumni outings. And that's where I met one of our guests on the Mic'd Up today years and years ago, back in 1980. And we'd have the tournament and all my old dad's old buddies, and they would come in and play as celebrities in the tournament. And they would sit around and have beer afterwards, after the trophies are given away and this and that and the other. And they'd sit around and they would tell the greatest stories you ever heard. And it wasn't stories about them that everybody already knew in books and movies and all that kind of stuff. No, there's stuff that they did together. And sometimes I'd walk away from those beer sessions and like, Dad, my goodness, I didn't know you were doing all that stuff when I was a little kid. All right, so with that, we have two special guests today. I'm going to introduce the first one. His name's Barry Smith, and Barry is a member of the Florida Sports Hall of Fame, and he played in the NFL for the Green Bay Packers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a special team in '76, where they never won a game, but actually, they won the hearts of every Bucs fan for the last 50 years because they just celebrated their 50-year anniversary. And then our other guest, also close to my heart, since my dad was an all-pro linebacker with the Steelers, we have a famous Steeler here. His name's J.T. Thomas, and he played when the Steelers were winning all those Super Bowls, 4 Super Bowl titles, and JT went to high school in Macon, Georgia. But what JT shares with Barry, both of them played football for Florida State University. And that's where they both probably got to know each other a little bit. And they both went on to the NFL. And so, we're trying to figure out, let's go ahead and swing the terrible towel, or do we need to, do the go Bucks, or are we talking about the Knowles today? I bet you we're going to come up with some great stories about all three. So with that, Barry, I'm gonna turn this thing over to you, and why don't you just start asking JT some questions?
Well, first, today's kind of special for me because JT and I go all the way back to 1969. We were both freshmen at Florida State University. That's 57 years. But
yeah,
before that we actually met, I actually want to give a shout out to a guy named Vince Dooley, the head coach of the University of Georgia, because hadn't been for maybe an unwise decision by Vince Dooley, JT and I would never be teammates. So I'm going to throw that out and let JT kind of embellish that one.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. You have to understand, people forget that, that time back in, we were coming out of Jim Crow. Segregation was very big. And I'm sitting in my senior year, not even aware of where I'm going to college. Because what has happened, although the 1964-65 Civil Rights Act had been passed, a lot of the southern schools had not, in terms of athletes, had not recruited African-American athletes to play in sports. So in 69, well, 68, I guess what was happening is that, I have no idea college my senior year because here's the situation. I'm in a white school that I helped integrate it. But so there's none of the historical black colleges are recruiting me, and none of the white colleges are recruiting me either. So my senior year, I have no idea about college. So this reporter from my hometown called Harley Bowers, who went to Georgia, along with my head coach, Godfrey Steiner, I called him Goot Steiner. This reporter called Vince Dooley and asked him to consider me as the first African American, at Georgia. This reply was this: "We're not ready yet." About 3 days later, I got a call from Coach Bill Peterson from Florida State, and he said, "JT, we heard what Vince said. He's not ready. We are." And boom, that was history there. Obviously, I'm going to Florida State. They were a passing school at the time, and I was a wide receiver. So, a yes and going to a passing school, it was hands down. I was going to be a Seminole, and that was how it all happened. And like I thank God that Vince, said no, because we wouldn't be here today in these circumstances. I'm sure.
JT, along those lines, because you touched on that, uh, JT was recruited as a wide receiver.
Yeah.
And because of the time we had the Fred Blitnikoff and Ron Sellers had, recently come through and were all Americans and studs. And so JT came to Florida State as a wide receiver. And part of that, our freshman year, we could not play varsity then. We were on the meet squad and played, JV football. But JT and I were tabbed the Gold Dust Twins.
Yep.
Gold Dust Twins. And because let me tell you what, he was one hell of a wide receiver.
Well, wait a second. What? Okay, tell me how you were labeled the Gold Dust Twins.
Let
Well,
JT.
Well, what happened is Barry and I, number one, when I saw Barry, I'll say this: Barry was the fastest white boy I ever seen in my life. I haven't seen a white boy run that fast. Not knowing that he was the coming out of high school, the
Yeah.
Florida 110 hurl champion. So in Florida, this dude winning. I mean, this is a bad son of a gun. And Eddie McMillan, who also, from Tampa, had met Barry, I guess, in high school, and Barry and met it, and Eddie had said, "Hey, man, that son of a gun can run." And so, I was impressed with Barry's speed, but also we had a quarterback, Gary Huff, at the time. So we became, the three of us, we would go up to the varsity and play against the varsity, in practice, and we just kicked their butts. So we had in our minds, we're gonna change the history of FSU, this passing thing. This Bolitnikoff and Ron Sellers, that's gonna be much. We're gonna break the records. But going into my sophomore year, they decided to switch me to um, defensive back. I was pissed. Barry was pissed. Gary was pissed. And so basically, I think we reconciled. As a matter of fact, even the Black Student Union was pissed. Why in the hell they got him at, putting him at defensive back? And I'm sure if they had stayed that way, there are probably been some receivers you wouldn't have heard of. you know. But anyway, I called my mother, and her mother said, "Well, listen, don't get in all the ruckus up here. Don't you need to start anything? No protest. There was enough protest going on anyway. So you don't need another protest. You got to get in." So she said, "Wherever you play, you're gonna be you regardless." And that probably the best advice I took, that because I took it with a grain of salt. I was mad as hell because I was a wide receiver. Although I played both ways in high school, I primarily everyone say you a wide receiver, and so I'm thinking they're trying to take my dream away from me. But obviously, the way it happened was probably one of the greatest things that they did, whether intentional or unintentional, whatever the case may
Hey,
be.
that makes me think about something.
Mhm.
And you two guys are the perfect people to answer this question. What's harder to play, defensive back or wide receiver? Which is the harder
Oh
position?
my God, defensive back. Because you're clueless. You have no idea where this guy's going, and on top of it, you're running backwards. I remember when I went and tried to my first contract, probably my second year. I wanted to renegotiate it, and I went into Dan Rooney, and he gave us all this contract stuff about promises and commitment to contracts, and I don't want to hear no damn contract law. I wanted more money, but anyway. Um, I walked out, I came back in, and then I said, you know what? I said, it's funny. I say, Al Davis is playing Fred Blitnikoff for $100,000 to catch the damn ball, and you want to pay me 50 to stop him. And I'm running backwards, and I don't know where in the hell he's going. He looked at me and said, well, yeah, so it made sense. So I actually renegotiated my contract using that Fred Blitnikoff story.
I
Hey,
love
I
that.
want I want to tell you a quick story here. My dad, in 1955, he was paid $1,500. He was his rookie year of the Steelers. You know how he made extra money? Art Rooney used to pay him to babysit the Rooney kids, Dan included. My dad
I'm,
used to be their babysitter.
That's funny. That's
I
funny.
am not. I'm not surprised. I had a lot of. I used to write. I'm writing a book called "From the Balcony," and I'm trying to get it out by year end. I've been writing for about 9 years, and
Oh,
I'm
really?
glad.
So you have a book? You wrote a book
Well,
called
yeah,
The Balcony, and it's coming out
He's
when?
trying to get it done.
I'm trying. You know what? What happened? I'm glad that I had this. You know, well, the book is completed, but you know, you go back and all. You know, the cataracts falls off. You know, like from the balcony. Every time you go to the balcony in life, you see things different that you miss, or you see things that you thought that you didn't see before. As to why we won. What was involved. And that's life anyway. When you reflect on life, you go back, you miss so much, and that's what made this book very difficult. But I'm glad that I didn't get it out because the I was just inducted into the Steelers Hall of Honors here last month, and
Well,
so
hey,
now this
congratulations on that. That is something.
it
That is
is
fantastic.
definitely. So I'm glad I didn't get it completed, but now I'm really going to push to get it completed because you know, one of the stories is I was called Riding with the Chief. I spent 2 years riding with Mr. Rooney. What happened after our first Super Bowl? I went to a Catholic school in Macon, Georgia, and he's a devout Catholic. So after our first Super Bowl, I went back to visit the school, and I made the cover of this national magazine, and he saw it. So he assumed I'm Catholic. Well, I'm missionary Baptist now and then, but he didn't know. He didn't care. So he wanted me to go around on every Tuesday night with him and the county commissioner while I speak, he give donations. And during that process of 2 years, got to know him, heard a lot of stories that I didn't want to repeat because you know before he was a sports guy, you know, Mr. Rooney was in another business, you know,
Horse racing.
huh? Horse
I think it
racing
was.
and
Yeah,
anything how you leverage a dollar, you know, you know.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he ran a lot of the communities in Pittsburgh, but what I found out. Um, I had a cousin there. My aunt had told me, "Say your cousin when you get to Pittsburgh, you meet him." And I did meet him. Found out that Mr. Rooney was tighter than mosquito nuts. Uh, and neither he or Mr. Rooney would tell me exactly the relationship, except they live in the same neighborhood. Well, I found out my cousin, he was biracial, and he would say, well, Mr. Rooney and I, or he said, all right, I wish to go around the communities, you know, help people out to make sure they needed something or make sure they were doing what they're supposed to do. I said, well, that didn't tell me much. I get to Mr. Rooney. Mr. Rooney said, well, yeah, he's a good friend of mine. And basically, what he would do, he could speak the language in all the neighborhoods. And I couldn't figure out what the hell. I'm young, naive. And they didn't really say. So a few years and probably next year, I figured out what it was. There was a number system going on, and guess who controlled it? Mr. Rooney. And guess who was his pickup man? My cousin.
The back.
The language, not only that, he could pass in Italian, Polish, German, and the black neighborhood. So he was passing, but he was doing the collecting, you know. And I found out, oh my God. And then now most of Mr. George and Mike, my cousin, his grandkid, 11 kids, I think 10 or 11 kids, but most of his kids, grandkids were my age. So when he passed, we had a little family reunion, and they didn't know this story. Now his kids did, I guess. I know they did. And they were saying, well, Papa was a gangster. I said, no, Papa was not no gangster. He worked with Mr. Rooney. And he was a gangster. No, but he was the one that Rooney trusted, the only guy that Rooney trusted to go around the neighborhood and make sure people are doing the right thing, for lack of a better word.
I love it.
That
Love it.
I'll tell you, that's fantastic. I've never heard that before,
I
but
know. I
but
need
it
to. I
all
got
makes sense. It does make sense to me. Yes.
yeah.
Wow.
Love it. Love it. Hey, JT, what I wanted to, John, I wanted to mention, because we talked about, JT being part of, we call them the original Fab Four. Okay.
Mhm.
The four guys that were signed at Florida State, came to Florida State, African Americans, on my freshman team, or our freshman team in '69, that went on. All of them played at Florida State. 3 of them, went on to the NFL. But the individual that actually physically broke the color barrier, that played in the first varsity game, had a stat, was JT. And it
Yeah.
was a very interesting, where some people, let's say you just start playing and you're on the squad, you're making a tackle here or there, but JT made a serious impact the very first time that he set foot on that football field, and that was September of 1970, our opening game against Louisville, who was coached at the time by Lee Corso, an
Yeah.
FSU
Oh,
guy.
wow.
But I
Yeah.
want
Okay. Yep.
I want JT to tell you, because JT saved the game in the waning seconds of the game, that we beat Louisville 9-7. But I got JT's got to tell you the story how he saved that game.
Yeah, that was you can imagine that moment, even the introduction of the game, I'm walking in the Doak Campbell Stadium, and and the crowd, this is the first time they've seen African American really uh, don the field there. And so it was a moment, because at that time I knew I wasn't just playing for me. I was playing for the Deion Sanders of the world, the whole 9 yards, and all the attitudes that, as an African American, you couldn't compete on the athletic field or in the classroom. And that was some of the rhetoric and idea that was floating around in general. With can an African American compete? So you can imagine what I was dealing with. But what happened? We got on to the last under a minute in the game, and we were leading 9-7. And basically, Louisville was somewhere around our 30-yard line, preparing to kick a field goal. Obviously, then the score would have been, they would have won by one point. And so we called field goal block left. We've been practicing me coming off the corner. And so um, we line up, the kicker line up, kick the ball. I come off and get it, the ball almost off the tee, block it. And the officials, I mean, the crowd is going crazy, but I look around, I got yellow flags all over my butt. Offside number 26 was the call, So you can imagine how dejected I felt. Now we're down to 25 seconds in the game. They move the ball up 5 yards, and this is like a chip shot. And so I'm feeling, terrible. Something very, I guess, unusual happened. Ron Wallace, defensive end. Ron is from the hometown of Macon, Georgia. Now,
Great guy.
Ron was a minister even then, but he's a very devout, well-known minister today. Ron decided to have a prayer meeting. Now,
Yep.
This is 1970. Guys praying on the field and holding hands.
In
That
the
don't.
middle of the game?
In the middle of the game.
Yeah. That don't even make sense. I mean, who's holding hands and saying prayers? In 1970, that wasn't the thing with football. But Ron, at that point, got us all there because it was an emotional moment. So we holding hands there. Ron said a prayer, and we decided to call the same play again. Field goal block left. Well, I come off again around the corner and get this ball again off the tee and block. And Ron picks it up and scampered, I don't know, 25 or 30 yards. We won the game. So that was my debut at FSU. It was ironic. I guess the first time when I blocked, the official hasn't seen that kind of speed, off the corner. So it had to be offside. And I told one of my friends, I said, well, he never seen my
Yep.
police speed. That was the police speed. My normal speed was 4.4, but the police
Well,
speed, I don't know what it is.
Fantastic.
well,
Oh,
well,
man.
like I said, JT made an impact, won the game, and and JT was off and running.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. Uh, shifting gears here real quick. The one thing I love about JT, he's kind of like a Renaissance man. I played football, hit golf balls, and party a little bit, but JT, besides being a hell of an athlete, he's writing books. You ought to see this guy play the piano.
Oh, really?
And love his style of piano, and I want to know, JT, how'd you learn how to play that
Well,
piano? Was it church
yeah,
or what?
both. I started taking music lessons when I was 10 years old. Um, we had a piano in the house, and I really was an athlete. I went to a Catholic school, so there was no. It was a segregated Catholic school, but so there's no sports there. So and I'm going to a school different from most of the kids in my neighborhood. So they, they're in elementary school. They playing sports. Well, I don't play sports. Matter of fact, they would pick me to play sports if the dog wasn't at the playground. If the dog there, the dog got picked. No, we ain't picking JT. So really, I was afraid of the ball and everything else. So basically, football wasn't a dream of mine. I'll share this that the reason I started playing football was really for the wrong reasons. My father was an abuser. He used to beat my mother, at the time. And so what happened? I'm age 10. Um, my father was an aircraft refueler by trade, but he was a genius mechanic. He trucks, Harley Davidson motorcycles. So there were tons of cars, motorcycles always in the yard that he was fixing. But he was always get the football players to help him pick up cars and put them on blocks, pick up transmissions. So I'm looking at these football players, and I say, if I become a football player, I could take this guy out. So no, seriously. So what I did, I didn't knew nothing about football, per se. So I started watching the Green Bay Packers of the '60s. I went in and I'm looking at them, and my eyes fell on the secondary, and I saw these two guys, Herb Adderley and Willie
Yep.
Wood. They were running backwards, and I thought that was so cool to be running backwards. So I would get the Sunday's paper, the funnies, and make me shoulder pads under my shirt. And I would go out and just be running backwards, running in the trees and stuff. My mom said, baby, what are you doing? You're going to kill yourself. She has no idea that I'm going to play football. And so basically, when I left the Catholic school, I'm thinking I'm going to the school with my friends in my neighborhood because I never had gone to school with them. So I'm going to junior high school with them. Well, that was the time of desegregation. Well, the principal at the school, Mother Josepha, told my mother, I think it'd be a great idea if JT went to one of the white schools. Well, I'm pissed. I don't want to go, but, I went. And so I'm going to play football there. So when I went there, in the ninth grade, I'm playing. And basically, it was an all boys school. In Macon, Georgia, for some reason at that time, all the schools were correlated, except the two black schools. They were the only co-ed schools in the city. Now, how you pull that off, I don't know. But my school is even more interesting. You get to the 10th grade, it's military. So I'm walking around with Army Greens, Army Khaki, with M1 semi-automatic weapons. So now my plot is thickening because now I got guns. And not only that, I go to the rifle range. The first time I'm there, they want me to be on a rifle team. I'm 5 points from a sharpshooter. I'm a marksman. But I want to play football because I got to get this dude at my house that's acting ugly. So, so my goal is so I'm playing football and to get strong and get bigger. Not even liking football. My mother said, "Baby, why are you playing football? You don't really care for football." Now I'm still playing the piano now. I mean, I'm taking lessons, stuff like that. And I'm playing for the young adult choir and stuff. But my goal is to take my father out, which is very sinister. And so I go up to age 16. I'm, my junior year, and things are quieting down, but I don't notice it because I'm playing, plotting, waiting for him, and I'm almost 6 feet tall. And my father's about 6 feet, 200 pounds, nice sized guy, strong guy. And his temperament changed, but I wasn't aware of it. So I'm sitting there waiting for a signal. Any noise I heard I thought was a cue. And I got 3 or 4 guns laying around. 'Cause we had guns in the house. I used to go hunting. That's how I know how to shoot. But I'm waiting for him to do something. And all of a sudden, nothing happened. I don't spent now, 7 years plotting and to show you how things work. And I just so recently shared this because sports wasn't why I was there. It was strictly waiting for the opportunity to get him. And guess what happened to him? Well, I didn't get opportunity. He found Jesus. Now I'm mad as hell at Jesus and everybody else. So I done spent 7 years here to get this dude, and he is into the church and done transformed. And I done spent 7 years here because my goal wasn't to play no college football. I mean, I was just, but to show you how life works out, that negative situation there put me in a position to train to become an athlete that wasn't even why I was doing it. And my mother knew that. She couldn't figure out why in the hell I was playing football or sports because she knew that wasn't my thing, But, it shows you how life goes. And so basically, that's how I ended up playing, getting a scholarship, obviously had an opportunity to go to college, because other than that, I had no money, couldn't afford to go. And parents didn't have the resources and they hadn't gone to college. So that wasn't even um, on the agenda, really. Going into my senior year in high school.
That's just fascinating. I had the opportunity a few years back to meet and get to know Mike Reed, who was an all-pro defensive lineman for the Bengals, and he's also a great piano player. And I
Yeah, he
remember
is.
seeing
Right.
that
Yes. Yeah.
a
He
thing
is
on him, and
definitely.
I I hooked up. We created something called Cowboy Golf. You play golf in a horse pasture with boots for tee markers and a
Mhm.
bandana for the flag, and two clubs, no putter needed. And that's how I met Mike, because we ran a tournament with a bunch of Grammy award winning songwriters like himself playing golf in a horse pasture.
Right.
And so it made me think of him. And again, that's right. That's a special talent to not only just to be able to play the piano, but to actually mix that talent with all the other things that you do in life.
Oh, yeah.
Do you still bang out any tunes on the piano these
Yeah.
days?
Matter of fact, I have one. I have like 3 or 4 pianos in my house. you know,
Wow.
yeah, I got a grand upstairs, and I got one. I got 3 downstairs, and like in a music area. And I had an organ there once. I wanted to get an organ back, a B3, but my wife said, "Do not bring no organ back in this house." But anyway,
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
I grew up in the church, and after I played ball, when I retired from in '83, from '83 to about 2000, I played for the young adult choir at my church. Here in Pittsburgh. So yeah, I love the piano. That was my goal, to be a professional. Well, I'm a professional, but be a musician. When I went to college, I was going to major in music. The problem was the music professors indicated that, well, in order to be great, you have to be in this music hall 11, 12 o'clock every night. Well, that also was the advent of the discotheque. And this Georgia boy came down there, and I saw this lighted dance floor, no strobe lights, place called the Electric Eye. Larry,
absolutely,
I
baby.
very probably remember that place. And
Oh, I
and,
sure
and
did.
and that lighted dance floor, them strobe lights was calling my name. And so I switched from music to business. But what happened though? That's how I got dates though. I would go around to the girls' dormitory and position myself there, and kind of, I knew all the Romeo and Juliet songs at the time. The I knew a lot of the Lionel Richie stuff during that era, so I was, playing all those tunes in the girls' dorm, and really just kind of sitting there being a vulture, I guess, waiting for them to come in. They sit down and flop around. The only problem, my teammates started figuring out what I was doing, so they started joining me. So they sitting around looking all into the music. Not really. They playing pure vulture. So I'm sitting there playing, and they walking out with all the girls. So I had to change my schedule.
Hey,
But
hey, JT. One of my really fun memories. Now, I wasn't there, but obviously my daughter, who lives in Pittsburgh, and
mhm,
she's been up to now 15 plus years, if
yeah,
not longer than that. So JT's kind of like the surrogate daddy for me, up there making sure she's okay. But a number of years ago, I moved a bunch of furniture from Tampa up to Pittsburgh, giving it to my daughter when she bought her house. And
yeah,
one of the things that we brought, or we put in the back of the truck, was a piano. Okay. And so my cousin Ronnie Kilpatrick, God rest his soul, he's like 9 years older than me. He drove the truck up for me. And so he's there as they're unloading it, and he goes, I hear the sound of a piano being played. I look around, there's JT up in the back of the truck of the truck, and he's playing his piano. And I got great pictures from that, and it's like, just fascinating, JT. God bless you.
Oh yeah.
Uh, hey, real quick, tell us a little bit about, kind of like your post football that, some of us get regular jobs. Of course,
Mhm.
JT was like the mayor of Pittsburgh.
I don't know
Uh,
about all that.
he goes on and he winds up getting a chain of restaurants. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, once I retired, even when during that when I was playing ball, I had jobs in off season. I was an insurance broker because I majored in risk and insurance and real estate at Florida State. So my first job was I was in the insurance business. I did life, I did property and casualty insurance. I worked for the government, the Department of Commerce, a year, and I was a coal broker. Steel mill was still running, so I was brokering coal. But
Yep.
when I retired, I got into the restaurant business, and my first restaurant was with I had a Chinese restaurant, believe it or not, and in one of the first food courts here with a uh, Chinese friend of mine, good friend of mine, who was a very powerful guy. I didn't know that. I knew a lot about him, but I didn't know that he was president of the American Federation of Chinese People, and he wasn't allowed in China because he had a contract on his life since he was about 17 when he left. But anyway, he I used to go to this restaurant, Chinese restaurant, and I was very enamored with the wok. And so basically, I know how to cook in the wok. I love to cook anyway. And so when I retired, I was going to do a barbecue restaurant, but he told me, listen, you heard of these food courts? I said, yeah, restaurants. I said, that's something new. He said, I'm thinking about it. He said, do you want to do it? So yeah. So I did a couple of Chinese restaurants and food courts. And then I got involved with Burger King. And and during that process, about 2 years in, another new chain came up called Applebee's. Applebee's was very new, and myself and one of my teammates, Larry Brown, who's from Florida, also from Stark, Florida. He was a tight end tackle here. He retired a year after me, and I said, "Listen, I'm going in. There's the Burger King's, the Applebee's. Want some of this risk?" He said, "Well, what the heck?" So I developed Applebee's in western and central Pennsylvania up here for about 20 some odd years. And then I got out of that probably around maybe 10 years ago. Then I got into another chain called Red Hot and Blue Barbecue, and went through that. And then I got into the coffee business up until the pandemic. I did coffee shops with a company up here with a friend of mine who had a chain called Crazy Mocha Coffee. So I got into the food industry, I guess, right after the ball and did it up until this past year. Um, um, Even when I got out after the pandemic, I got involved with a company out of Florida called Papa's Pilar Rum, and
Our
when I
buddy.
was there, I was their ambassador here for about 3 years to get the product into Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a state-controlled liquor, state, which is which is terrible, like the mafia. They control all the liquor, all the prices. So in other words, and it's very difficult to get in. So I was the ambassador for Papa's Pilar rum, which is out of Florida there, and for the last 3 or 4 years. And this is the first year I have not been actively chasing a dollar or been in that food industry. Yeah,
Hey, I got to jump
2026.
in here because Papa Pilar, Barry and
Yeah.
I, we're very close to that situation. One of the
Hmm.
owners, Nick Doyle, what a
Oh yeah,
wonderful person he is. He's serves on our board of the Florida Sports Hall of Fame, and
yeah.
I've personally been down there to Key West and everything. But if you're watching this program, we have to, if you look, it's just take a good close look at Barry Smith. Barry is one of the and not many people enter this contest, and obviously only one person can win every year, but just to get into this contest you have to really have the look. And Barry entered one year the Ernest Hemingway lookalike contest in Key West,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
and you just can't just walk off the street and get in. You have to really look like Ernest
Oh
Hemingway. Now
yeah.
Barry's trimmed up a little bit, but but yes, Papa Pilar's rum and the Ernest Hemingway
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
legacy, that whole deal. I mean, it's just a wonderful company they have down there. And I got to go tour their distillery this summer, and I just on a whim, I happened to be down there, and I looked over. There it was. I called Dick. Hey, I want to go see it. And I do realize that on the top of a Papa Pilar rum bottle, which is shaped like a canteen from
Mm-hmm.
World War II, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
history with Ernest Hemingway, and that is that only in Key West, when they distill it, there's a special cap, and it's got like a compass kind of thing on
Right.
top of
The
it
top of it.
that
Yeah,
points you
definitely.
to the distillery. And they're only all around the country. You don't have that cap on it except there in Key West. But yeah, what a great company that was. I didn't want to digress on it, but Barry and I get pretty excited when we hear about Pilar rum. We've
We sure do.
we've
Well,
been
it's
not only were you a great ambassador for it, JT, but we've been great consumers
oh, hey,
of
me too. Don't
the
don't
product
hey.
also.
Yeah, I love it myself. I mean, I still have bottles of it, and like I say, we got into the state stores up here over the last couple of years, which is very difficult. And I tell you, it was if it wasn't state control, because the state wants to control it like any monopoly, they want to control every aspect of it. And really, I was a problem because what happened, you got JT out here using his image to market a product ahead of their marketing plan. So
Yep.
you can
Ah,
see the
okay, yeah.
conflict there. Wait a minute,
Yeah.
JT creating a demand that we may not want to create. So I recognize that too, because I go in. Normally, you bring an athlete in just to draw people into the store, but when I come in, I got a product here, and I'm drawing people to a specific product, and then they think it's my product. So so you can see how that can kind of get in the way of their marketing programs, because you may have Bacardi rum taking up space here, and now JT is invading the space, and Bacardi rum done paid $100,000 for that shelf space, and JT comes in here because he's JT, you know, you know, taking up shelf space or creating a demand. So I can understand that, but that's when you have a monopoly control. They want to control all aspects of it, even the marketing. So I became probably a kind of a pain in the ass. I know that. You would say that you should love that, but not really. It's not about the money; it's about the power.
Well,
Hey, I want
JT.
to shift gears on something here with you two guys. My dad's last year in the NFL was 1966. He played for Otto Graham with the
Mhm.
Redskins. My dad retired in '65,
Okay.
but Otto was a good friend of him, and he just took care over the Redskins. Come back for one more year, John. So my dad, because he helped found the Players Association, he was the first secretary treasurer of it for like
Right.
6 years while he was an active player. He went ahead and I said, "Listen, I want a no-cut contract, and I want to be the highest paid linebacker in the NFL." So in 1966, he had a $25,000 no cut contract, and he was the
Wow.
highest paid linebacker in the NFL.
Wow.
And when he went to training camp, he went up there hoping to be cut. He just all he wanted to do was get up there, not play, get cut, go home, and he's got 25 grand, right? Well, no. Otto Graham didn't care if he didn't practice. He didn't care anything. He made him play every game. He was there, and
I
it was a
love it.
wonderful thing. Well, fast forward today, because you mentioned earlier when we were talking about the amount of money that people pay, and the Rooney family. I mean, they were pretty stingy, but at the same
Oh,
time,
well,
football didn't have the budget.
they were stingy when I was there at the fight for.
Yeah. In fact, I remember Art Rooney and my dad. They were partners in a bar in McKeesport, and after the games were over, my dad would invite all the families over, the players, the families, whatever, for $5. All the beer you can drink and eat, and all the food you can eat. Those are kind of different days. But in those days, you had to do something else also in
Oh yeah.
addition to playing football. And you guys were probably right on the first edge of people that could play football as a job and not have to worry about the off season. But at the same time, you both still, when you retired from football, went into business, were very successful doing it. What do you think about the young players today where there is a lot of money? Are they
Yeah.
preparing themselves for business like
You
you
know,
guys obviously did, because you, even though you made money playing football, you knew that you also had to have a day job or get ready to have a day job.
yeah, really, the money that how I looked at the money when I came in the league, my goal was get 5 years, get vested for a pension, and get seed money to go out and do my life works. I didn't see it as a career.
Right.
Today, guys come in today, they have generational wealth money. You come in at 22, you know, you got 30, 40 million dollars at 22. Now that's a lot of money for any 20, because at 22, you're only thinking about three things and two of them twice. So, so basically, uh, so that's money that I can't even imagine. Um, because what happened at 22, let's say you get drafted. Before you come to training camp, you have fulfilled all your dreams. You bought mama house, your house, you bought your car. Every young lady that you wanted and thought you wanted, you said hi to her. So now you come to training camp, you with all your dreams fulfilled, and you got 25 or 30 million dollars in the bank. That's a situation I can't imagine. Like you say, I'm a number one draft choice in '73. In January or February of '74, I got a job. So it's a whole new different uh, view of life, and I never looked at it as a career. Now, as I played longer, obviously money did increase, but still, it wasn't the kind of money that you say I'm set for life. Today, these guys come in, with the $100 million contracts and stuff. It's amazing. I mean, it's a blessing. I would love to have those kind of resources, and they could be set for life, but a lot of them aren't. You know, because youth is youth, and money like anything else. If it will leave you, especially if you're a fool.
Hey, JT,
Yeah.
uh, I'm looking forward as well, John. About once a year at least, I make a trip up to Pittsburgh so Marianne and I can visit her daughter and her husband. But one of the, I'll call it a tradition that we've had for quite a long time, is that JT and I will get together and we do one of those things that, John, I know you really enjoy doing, and that's smoking cigars.
Oh yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
We get together. JT has, put it this way, obviously he has a lot of great connections, a lot of great places, and sometimes, hey, I think during the COVID, I think we just hung out at the house, but
Yeah.
we always have. We have adult libations, but we have some great cigars, and more importantly, some great time to just catch up, talk, and share some great stories and what's going on with their families and life. And JT, I've always appreciated that. And I look forward to seeing you. Yeah, I guess in November.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. I can't wait, my friend.
yeah, play
Okay,
Pittsburgh.
so what's happening in November? It must be some sort of something centered around football in Tallahassee during a home game.
Well, it's actually in Pittsburgh.
It's
We
in
play
Pittsburgh.
Oh, in Pittsburgh.
the
Oh,
Pittsburgh
that's right.
Panthers.
It's about now in Tampa. We call it the Ring of Honor. What do you call that in Pittsburgh?
You mean the Hall of Honors?
Yes, that's what
Yeah.
that's what you're talking about, right? Coming
No, no,
up.
no, 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 no. We're talking about annually. Barry and I get together. He comes up here, and we have a hoot. Just he and I get
Oh, okay.
together.
Well, you
Yeah.
know what? I mean, I'm just, well, gosh, I mean, I'm thinking about you because you had mentioned the Hall of Honors and,
Oh yeah, that's coming
November,
up.
this, that, the other. You know what? You guys have your priorities set right in life. I mean, that is more major league than any of that other stuff, man.
Yeah,
To
we
get
do.
together with good friends, great beverages, light up a
Oh yeah.
premium smoke. Okay, that's you got it. You figured it out. And then everything else comes
Oh
secondary.
yeah.
I mean, we of course you got God and family,
Oh
but then
yeah.
after that, before you have football, you got the cigar libations
Oh
and
yeah.
good times.
There
Well,
you go.
see. I mean, with a cigar and a good drink, that's what God drinks on Sunday. He has a cigar and stuff, and you can solve most of the world problems. If you sit down,
There we
and
go.
Barry and I do. We solve all the world problems about a couple
There
of
we
days.
there we go.
Well, there's a lot to be said for that. We've been doing this for almost an hour. We're gonna have a part two to this conversation because we could
Oh,
go on
definitely.
and on and on. So with that, JT, thank you
My
for
pleasure.
your time and the conversation. It was just wonderful. And Barry Smith, always, we always enjoyed our mics up together, and it's a lot of fun. So we're going to get ready to sign off. So everybody watching, make sure that you catch up. Obviously, this fall, Hall of Honors. JT going into the Hall of Honors there, and we really appreciate everybody listening to Mic'd Up. I'm John Rager, your PJ broadcaster, and you might be looking for a part 2 of this episode. So with that, take care.